everyone and welcome back to the Colour Cave, where we like to play with art stuff. My name is Jem, and just the way these videos have been falling as I get back into the swing of things, we happen to have another unboxing, and today is the turn of Scrawlrbox. So that is the UK monthly based art subscription box. Same format as the Up Crate, if you know what that is. You get a set of supplies that work together and you get some information and hints and tips to spur on your creativity, and you get given an art prompt, and the idea is to use the supplies in the box to create an artwork. We are just unboxing today. I will do the art prompt as a separate video in a couple of weeks' time. So let's just get stuck in and see what the goodies are all about. Ooh! Okay, first of all, here is our featured artist, and this looks very inky to me. I love the format. I like it when they change the format of the paper. It makes me really happy. And this is Imre, a self-taught artist from Scotland who loves all things robots and cartoons. We're doing quite well for Scottish artists just now. It's lovely. And I'm just reading down here, and it says at the bottom, anything to do with art, I'll give it a bash. How many times have I said that? And that is such a Scottish phrase to use. I'll give it a bash. Ah, love it. Anyway, this is really cool. So their Instagram link is down here as well, at Created by Imre is the handle. And this is a really nice art style, very different from anything I would do, so I always appreciate things like this. So I think we might have some fine liners and maybe markers on the go by the looks of things, but this purple part looks like pencil, so I shall reserve judgment for the time being. Our surface to work on is an A5 white card pad. It's 250 GSM, so that's quite thick in terms of paper. And it is smooth, so that again, that makes me think markers. Oh, got a bit of debris. Yep, so brilliant white paper, and say 250 GSM, it's fairly sturdy. And a little bit of a rough edge down here. Oh God, can you hear that? That's my bulls hollering. The cave is surrounded by bulls just now. Just before they get ready they're getting into ship shape for going out with their girlfriends. So there's a lot of honking and mooing going on just now. Anyway, back to what we were talking about. So the paper looks fairly good, and that makes me think markers. We also have our Scrawler zine, so this is the magazine that comes in the box. It explains the supplies a little bit, gives you some hints and tips, and there's usually some sort of other form of inspiration in there as well. On to the supplies. Oh, we've got our Scrawlrbox sticker, which is black with the kind of dotty pattern on it. Oh, it's like binary code. I can see it here on the Scrawler zine. That makes sense now. This is going to take a bit of explaining, and weirdly in the last video, in the Up Crate video, I was actually rambling on about Urwully and I ended up cutting it out because the video was so long. So Urwully is a Scottish comic book character, and all of the comics, they're in one of our Sunday newspapers, and the dialogue is all in Broad Scots dialect, so it's written phonetically, and if you don't speak Broad Scots, it's very, very difficult to understand. So this is Urwully's bra, which means good. Again, if you watch the Scottish lesson live stream, you would know that. Bra is good, Highland toffee chew bar, and it's got like a nice tartan packaging. I haven't seen one of these for absolute years. The very dab says this is Urwully here, so that's our William for people that aren't Scottish. So this is Willie here, so he's got a wee blonde spiky haircut, and he wears a pair of dungarees, and he likes to sit on an upside down bucket. That's his thing. So this has really, really tickled me. Oh, I love it. Oh, goodness me. Okay, let's take a look at the supplies. Oh, look, we've got a pencil. So this is another Hardmouth 3B pencil this time, so that's quite a soft pencil. Used these pencils before, nothing wrong with them, wouldn't be my pick of the bunch, but certainly perfectly functional. What can I say? Yeah, got a sticker for that. Incidentally, these are available as part of a sticker pack on the Stash shop. I am looking at doing like a pick and mix sticker shop so that you can purchase individual stickers and get a discount for buying, you know, like multiples. That's something that's coming up in the Stash shop. So if you are a sticker monster, you can look out for that. Especially if you just want one out the pack. You don't really want to buy the whole pack, but you can purchase the It's a Pencil sticker. It is available. Right, okay, shameless plug, moving on. We've got another pencil here, and this is a Rembrandt Polycolour. These Polycolour pencils, they're kind of like unsung heroes. I really like the Polycolours, and the Lyra ones especially, they seem to sharpen really well. And this is obviously I was going to say a dark blue, it's actually saying dark violet, so that's a really, really nice colour. And I'm assuming that that's what this is on the featured artist's artwork too. We have got a Copic Multiliner, a 0.3. So these are waterproof, but they're also alcohol marker resistant as well. Obviously they're made by Copic, so you would like to think that they would play well with Copic markers. So if we just take a look at the nib, it's fairly fine. That's pretty nice. These fine liners are nice to use. I've had a couple of them before. I will probably pop this one in the stash shop because I've got more fine liners than I know what to do with as well. And finally, Marabou Graphics sketch markers, alcohol markers. These particular markers, I've had these a couple of times now and I just can't, I don't know, I just can't get to grips with them. I'm not a huge fan of alcohol markers anyway. I don't use them that often. These ones I just found were a bit, I don't like, I'll show you what I mean. Get them out of the box first, Jem. I don't like the square format of the barrel for a start. They are clearly labelled though, so you've got a bullet nib that looks a little bit like this, so that's really good for fine details. And on the other end there's this chisel nib, and it's like a standard chisel nib. I don't see the point in paying money for these markers. There are much better markers on the market. The ink distribution in these as well, it's very temperamental depending on what paper you use. I've struggled to get really nice flat colour with them, which for me, that, you know, markers should be able to do that. So that is my preconceived notion. We're on a monochromatic scale here, so again that's that fits with this idea of maybe like this you know, like mechanical or robotic theme. So we've got all the greys, and to be honest, I mean, that's not particularly exciting. You can see the colour swatches there. And okay, we've got a purple pencil for a tiny pop of colour. Okay, let's not be a negative Nelly. Right, okay, so here's the card that comes with the list of all the supplies. So let's see if we can learn a little bit more about the supplies. The Marabou markers, the Alpha Robot set. Now the recommended retail price for 6 of these markers is £20 apparently. That seems a bit steep, but we know that these RRPs usually are. They're filled with top quality alcohol based ink that is low odour and rapid drying. Now that was the problem when I was just talking about flat colour. It seems like sometimes they dry almost too quickly. They're perfect for layering and will create fantastically intense colour depths the more layers you apply. These colours can also be mixed while the ink is still wet on your surface. Yeah, good luck with that. These markers have dual Japanese tips, a fine 1mm brush nib, which is very nice. That, you know, I like that part of the marker. At one end for precise control and crisp fine detailing, and a 7mm chisel tip at the other, great for covering large areas quickly. This is probably just me, but like I just really struggle with chisel tips. I don't get on well with them at all. The Copic Multiliner, it's a fantastic little tool for all of your outlining drawing requirements. The fine 0.3mm nib is fantastic for fine details, and the ink is waterproof, bleed proof, and it says in brackets, so great when used with alcohol markers and resistant to UV light, keeping your work crisp and clean for time to come. And again, the recommended retail price is £4.99. I've never paid £4.99 for a fine liner in my puff. Okay, the Kohnauer 1900 pencil, 3B, a beautifully crafted pencil, of course. Highest quality graphite lead, also of course, encased in a characteristic black hexagonal barrel made of Californian cedar wood. It is light fast, easy to erase and durable, making it perfect for all your sketching and drawing needs. The paper, extra smooth card, particularly well suited to pen, ink and markers as it will not bleed. That's one of the things I always look at with marker paper, is not only the bleed through and the ghosting on the opposite side of the paper, but when you're actually putting your marker down, if there's any feathering or bleed out, you know, from side to side on the actual paper, because that's something a lot of marker papers say that they're bleed proof, and when they say that they mean it won't leak through to the page underneath if you're working on a pad, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it won't spider out the way. So if you're looking for really clean crisp lines, as you would if you were drawing something like this, you know, that you really have to have good paper for that. So we'll pay attention to that when we test the supplies out. The Lyra Polycolour pencil in dark violet, PEFC certified cedar wood, so we're all eco-friendly, which is what we want. Features a coloured lead, a coloured end that matches the lead, so you know what colour you're about to work with. Well, we'll see about that as well. 4mm diameter lead for better yield, which is made from permanent high pigment powders that are UV resistant. So not light fast, but UV resistant. That is important to note. This pencil will guarantee an intense, bright colour distribution every time. Right, let's take a little look at our Scrawler zine now. So here we've got the overview of the supplies on the front page. It says about the sweet treat. Delicious tube art inspired by the iconic wee Scottish laddie Oor Wullie. Since appearing in the Sunday Post, that's the newspaper I was talking about, over 80 years ago, Oor Wullie has become a part of Scottish heritage. Yes, we're very proud of Oor Wullie. And the Bruins. The Bruins are a family, the Brown family, and they also have a comic featured in the Sunday Post as well. Or sticker, obviously, don't forget the sticker. Okay, so here's our interview with the featured artist, and I just happened to notice scanning over here, he talks about a place called Kilmarnock, and that's literally spitting distance from where I was brought up. So this gentleman may or may not be from my neck of the woods, which is incredibly funny as well. So always nice to sit down and read this part with a cup of tea. So behind the artwork, this is a little bit of a description of the way that he's gone through his art process, and also things to try as well. So they talk about planning here, and doing a bleed test when swatching your markers. Now obviously we always do that anyway, so that's good. And it talks about the sketch markers as well being fast drying. However, if you work quickly, the colours can be mixed and blended whilst they are still wet. This is so dependent on the paper, it's not necessarily the marker. The alcohol content in the marker will also be part of that equation as well, because the higher the alcohol content, the quicker it dries out. So that's something that is very dependent on how you put the supplies and your drawing surface together. Alcohol markers are great for layering. Yes, they are. You'll get a deeper colour the more layers that you put on, and we'll go through that when we test out the supplies. Because these markers come with 2 tips, they're great for different techniques in your artwork. For an even coverage, make sure you move your markers slowly over the page. Moving too quickly will cause that undesirable streaky look to your drawings. Right, well there's a tip for me straight away, so I think that's something that I might have to try out as we go along here. Another way to avoid unwanted streaks or mark is to move the pen in the direction your subject is. I talk about that quite a lot, about following the lines of your subject. I think that's pretty good advice as well. Try using different stroke types throughout your drawing to create the illusion of texture and dimension. So there's the plus side of what I was just talking about, you know, about having streaky marks and not being able to get a good flat colour. That's the, you know, the inverse of that is that on the good side of it, you can actually use that to your advantage to make your drawing more interesting. So this was the January Scrawlrbox. I loved this box. This was my monkey with a hat on. I'm liking the fact that there's lots of animals in cosy clothes. That makes me really happy. I love this one from Carrie is artsy. That's really whimsical, and it looks like a lot of creatures in what looks like a takeaway, like fast food fries box. That's hilarious. I really like that. I'm also enjoying the chicken as well. Excessive noise. Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, the Scrawler Extra. Can robots make art? So they're talking about they were talking about art made by technology here, so that's going to be an interesting read as well. There's a little sidebar here on the UK Illustration Digital Champion, so this is obviously some sort of event or award. If you're interested in that, they have left a link to it down in the bottom here. Okay, and that is our Scrawler zine. So let's take a look at the prompt. I kind of know where this is going, and I don't really want to turn this over. Oh, come on then. Yep, there we go. This month's Scrawlrbox is all about exploring the world of robots. Using the supplies inspired by our featured artist, try experimenting with grayscale and the use of tone shading and textures to bring your bionic beings to life. This is definitely like a major weak spot for me. Markers teamed with anything mechanical. I don't like drawing structured things. I'm very much about organic, free-flowing shapes and delicate colours, not in marker. Nonetheless, we are going to test out these supplies and talk a little bit about the paper and things, so I'll just get myself sorted out and we'll get started on that. Right, so let's see what this is up to. I am going to do this on the pad. I am not going to take it off because I want to see about the bleed and the ghosting and the blah 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 that we talked about. So let's just zoom in a little bit. Start with the basics. So here is our pencil. This is smooth paper and this is quite a soft pencil. It's a 3B pencil. If you're not sure about the grading of pencils, I do have a video dedicated to this talking about the different grades and range of graphite. I'll link that in the description and the end card for you if you want to check it out. But 3B is quite a soft pencil. So I imagine we'll be able to get quite a good depth You'll be able to make this quite dark. Because it's smooth paper though, the graphite won't grip as well, so you perhaps won't get quite the same as you would on slightly more textured paper. But it's going down fairly well. And I'm thinking of maybe use this more for shading. Even sketching, you know, if I'm pressing really, really lightly, it's still quite an untidy line. But the point I was going to make is if you go like that, it's like being on an ice rink, you know, the graphite's like, wee, let's go. So if you're gonna incorporate this in part of your artwork, you will have to be careful about where you're putting your hand in thing, because you're going to end up with like these sort of like mucky marks around about. Again, that can be used to your advantage as well, but it's just when you're actually working on the piece, you need to be careful of that. And let's test out our little Lyra Poly colour. Now, it was saying about the dipped end, you know, the coloured end matching the lead, and the dipped end is much, much darker and looks much, much bluer than this. So that's an absolute out and out lie. However, again, these pencils are not really designed to work on paper like this. Pencils need textured paper, they need tooth so that the pigment can grip, and you're not going to get much in the way of layers with that either. And I can see my lines are starting to appear already. If I just zoom in a little bit further, that's only a couple of layers of pencil, and you can actually see the marks that I've made on the paper. And you know me, guys, I'm good with pencils, and I'm not pressing hard there. It's not like I'm mashing that into the paper. So I feel like this pop of colour idea, I like the idea that we've got this, you know, grey monochromatic, you know, robot-y type thing. Their choice of supply for that pop of colour is rubbish. A really nice, like, vibrant brush marker would have been amazing. Why pick a pencil if you're going to give us really smooth paper? And again, the same thing, that's smudging a wee bit. So it's not to say you can't work with it, you can, and there's actually nothing wrong with it, but I think there could have been a better supply pick for that colour. But that's just my personal opinion. It still works, it's not broken. So here we've got our fine liner as well. Now this should be great on this paper because it's smooth, and look at that little delicate line we've got there, that's just lovely. The ink flow in these is pretty good, so even if you want to work quickly, you're not, the pen doesn't skip. But also, pens with this size of nib are great for hatching. Again, I don't know how much of that you're going to do if you're doing a sort of mechanised drawing, but that is good to know. They don't take long to dry as well, so from the point of view of using things over the top of them without this bleeding or smudging, you don't have to wait long at all. And I've observed that over lots of different types of paper. Okay, let's take a look at these markers. The other thing I don't like about these markers, listen to you, I hate them all. The thing I don't like about these markers is they don't have colour names, they've just got numbers. I am very much a name person, not a number person. So let's take a look. This looks like the, I was going to say that looks like the palest colour. And some of them look quite close together as well. So let's see. Here's the bullet tip. See, I actually really like the bullet tip on these. Oh, it seems to be quite good on this paper. That's just cheered me up a little bit. So we've got this really, really nice delicate grey. So here's our chisel nib. And there you go, that's a couple of layers, so we'll see how that dries as well, because that looks very different to this, and that's the idea of layering up these types of markers. So these ones have got more of a, I would say like we're into French grey here, you know, there's a little bit of brown in there. Yeah, like a stone colour. I hate that noise as well. I'm really not a marker person at all. They don't excite me for some reason. Straight away, just from putting these two down, I think that we're going to get, well, I personally say we, the royal we, I'm going to get on a lot better on this paper with these markers than I have in, you know, previous times where I've had these Marabou pens. Well, so far so good on the colour range. There's nothing worse than getting a, you know, like a monochromatic set of pens and you end up with like 2 or 3 that are really close together, therefore render themselves pointless. Yeah, we're doing pretty good here. This is quite nice. I can imagine someone, you know, out with the prompt, I mean, I can imagine someone doing some sort of architectural drawing, like an old stone building with these colours. I think that would look really nice. It's not something that I would do because I hate drawing architecture because it's boring, but there are people that are really into that and do a really good job of it. Oh, this one's almost brown. This is like a sepia colour. It's nothing like the colour on the tip. That is brown. That's not grey. My. Yeah, see, that's really deceiving. Look at the colour on the lid. Okay. That's what I call elephant grey. It's got a little hint of blue in it. I like that shade of grey. And the thing is, I really like grey. Grey is not, it's not as if I don't like working with grey. I like to draw in graphite. I'm all in with the grey. So I'm pleased about the selection of greys that we've got. This is actually a lot of variety for 6 markers, and I like it very, very much. So what I want to do now is I'll do it with one of the paler colours. I showed you briefly there, so let's try it with this second palest colour. This is 987 if you're interested. So let's draw a square. Okay, so if I split this in the middle now, that's dry. It's dry. That is how quickly it dries. It's not particularly warm in the cave today. It's not cold. I would say normal room temperature. So if we split this little box in half, you can see the difference already between the two. And if you keep going, this is one way to get really flat saturated colour, is to do several layers, but obviously that changes how dark it is, so that's something to be aware of. But you will get to a point where you completely saturate the paper, and so basically all the gaps are filled in, if you like, and that will give you really uniform colour. But obviously it then makes it very difficult if you're wanting to get any shading or variation in. That's the downside. Okay, there we go. So there's 3 versus 1. The paper's taking this really well. I'm just looking to see if the paper's starting to complain, and it's still flat and smooth as a baby's bottom, which I'm really, really pleased about. It'll be interesting to see if we do this with this sepia colour. So let's try it with this one. Just got a little bit of a whiff of alcohol there. These pens aren't bad, they're not particularly stinky. Again, I'm quite sensitive to chemical smells, and that doesn't bother me, but I just got a whiff of it there. And it's just an alcohol smell, it's not anything horrendous. And trust me, I'm used to horrendous smells. I'm okay with like farm horrendous smells, obviously. Like I'm probably like, I can't smell them anymore, but I'm okay with stuff like that. But anything with chemicals in it tends to trigger a migraine situation for me. So even with the dark pen, you can still get a lot of contrast in there. So there's a lot of room for manoeuvre and scope for any kind of art challenge that you want to do. I'm quite impressed with the paper. I am just going to give the paper a beating, just for the sake of it, just to see how far we can actually go, and the chisel tip seems to be the way forward. So let's scrub away. Oh, like, yeah, I'm going for it. And the surface of the paper seems fine. It's not pilling or bobbling or pulling up at all. And that paper's still, right, okay, there we go. It's starting to soften out at the edges, so that means the paper's saturated and it's starting to soak out the way, so we're there. When I did these other swatches, there's no feathering. So what you put down on the paper, unless you use a lot of layers, will stay accurate and it'll stay crisp and clean. Again, very important if we're going to be doing, you know, something along these lines. So let me just tilt this up now and see what the paper's saying to me. There is a slight curve in the pad anyway, if you can see that there. The paper is curving out, and that's perfectly normal. But I'm just wondering if it's been aided and abetted by... yeah, okay. If you're using 1 or 2 layers, absolutely fine, no problem. If I just turn this over here, it will go through onto the other side. You can see that, and that's normal for alcohol markers. They all do it. There are certain papers, and they're very specialised papers, and there's only a couple of brands that do them, that guarantee that you won't see anything on the back side of your sheet of paper. But most marker paper and most alcohol markers will soak through to the other side. So this is normal. This is what we didn't want, and that is actually like... It's just an imprint of what I've done before. So this paper will not take heavy layers, repeated layers of your marker without ruining the page underneath. The best way to remedy that, get a bit of card and stick it in behind the page that you're working on, and you can layer away until your heart's content. But that's a little bit disappointing. I'm actually wondering if it's going, oh no, oh no, look, how many... Good grief. So how many sheets of paper was in this pad? There's 10 sheets. Well, there's not 10 sheets anymore. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh God, so that's nearly half the pad. I would dare say that sheet's salvageable because that's only a tiny little mark. You could easily draw or colour over that. These ones, not so much. See, it's just as well I do these experiments. Now, the thing is, though, there's nothing defective or nothing wrong here. All this is perfectly normal, but if you don't know about it before you start, you can end up wrecking nearly half the pad of paper that they've given you. So that's why I feel it's important to talk about these things. All in all, I'm a lot more optimistic and happy than I was when I took the supplies out the box now that I've tried them out. I think that they're a relatively well-rounded set of supplies. A wee bit disappointed in the pencil. Again, probably just me, I'm quite picky with things like that, but I am pleasantly surprised by the range of greys. and the fact that they've not kept them all in the same colour family. So see, you've got these, you know, greys that are heading towards brown, and you've also got this idea that there's a little bit of blue in this one as well. So you have actually got lots and lots of variety, and I think that you can actually use the graphite pencil to your advantage for this kind of work as well. So this is going to be a challenge for me. As I mentioned earlier, I'm not really a marker person, but also never ever draw anything mechanical. So that's going to be a little adventure for me in the next video, which I'm actually quite looking forward to. I think one of the things about these markers is I would prefer a brush tip, even if I'm working in geometric shapes, which obviously will be more apparent and if you're drawing like a robot or something mechanical. I still find it easier to work into tight corners and angles with a brush pen than I do with the likes of a chisel nib. And I think it's just probably due to the fact that I paint and I'm used to having a brush, and I've learned, I mean, I've been doing this for 4 years now, and I've my control and my accuracy with a paintbrush, as long as it's a reasonable quality paintbrush, is actually quite good. And I think that probably influences my opinion on these types of markers. I just think they're awfully expensive, and I know they're alcohol based, which is what makes them expensive, and all alcohol markers are pretty pricey, but for that kind of money, I just like a brush tip. I just prefer a brush tip. It's far more versatile than a chisel nib in my opinion, and yes, it takes a little bit of getting used to, but so do chisel nibs. You can tell I'm rubbish with them. So that would just be a preference of mine. And the number of companies and brands of markers and like bog standard markers like this that have got a bullet and a chisel tip, it makes these feel really not special, for want of a better phrase. But you know what I mean, there's nothing outstanding about them. It's just another alcohol marker, and I think maybe that's why also I don't get that enthusiastic about them. But yeah, really like the colour selection, impressed with that, really like that, and weirdly looking forward to trying something that's not normally in my subject matter. I think just now, especially since I've been so out of practice because I haven't been well and I've been away from it for a couple of weeks, I think this is a really good way to give myself a kick up the bum and get back into it properly, especially now that I'm not tiring so easily. So I am looking forward to trying this out. I'll probably have a little doodle in my sketchbook between now and the actual prompt video, which will say probably be in about a week's time, guys. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this box. I'm obviously biased as well because there's a Scottish artist in it, which I really like as well. That aside, overall, pretty impressed with the box. Scrawlrbox are pretty together, generally speaking, in terms of their boxes, and it's very much like an evolution thing. Some of their earlier boxes could have been hit or miss, but they seem to be becoming very consistent now, which obviously as somebody that pays for a subscription box, that's what you want. I want to thank you all very much for watching. I appreciate you coming and hanging out with me, and I will see you back in the cave on Thursday, yay, back to normal, for our regularly scheduled video. So have a great day everyone, stay safe, take care of each other, bye for now.